winds up in a tug-of-war between two women, including the car dealer's hot-to-trot wife, Virginia Madsen, who is a big tease when he comes over to her house.
Oh, I meant to ask you about finding me. Did I give you the right direction?
I can find it in the dark.
You sure?
The other woman is a timid accountant, Jennifer Connelly, who's being extorted by a neighborhood thug. Don Johnson's immediately drawn to her.
Why don't you read it?
Oh, nothing. It's just, silly.
The car dealer's wife is a more critical threat to Johnson because she knows he just robbed the town bank. She has a scam, too. She wants to knock off her rich husband. In this scene, director Dennis Hopper is trying to establish a melodramatic mood from a 40s movie. But these characters in this blue light are duds.
You want to kiss me, don't you?
Kiss you? I'll kill you. I swear to God, I'll kill you.
I just want to stress how empty Don Johnson's character is. While I was watching The Hot Spot, I really seriously questioned his acting ability, something I hadn't done before. He comes across here as like a male model. No life at all in his characterization. He just stands around posing. The car dealer's wife is a caricature. Only Jennifer Connelly as the timid girl is appealing, although I'm tired of young girls being cast as fantasies for adult men. It's a very disappointing movie.
Gene, I liked it, I guess, a lot more than you did. I was not bothered by Don Johnson as the out-of-town drifter without a past, but in particular what I liked about this movie, which you seem to have missed, is I think this is a David Lynch movie that works. It happens to have been directed by Dennis Hopper, but it has all the same elements, the steamy melodrama, the backstage stuff, the bizarre plot, the strange props, the old cars, the house on the hill, and so forth. And I think that by putting all the emphasis on Don Johnson, you're missing the fact that Virginia Madsen and Jennifer Connelly really own this movie. These two women who fight for control of this man. It's right out of the 50s. It's like a Lana Turner up against Teresa Wright or somebody, and it's really fun at that level.
I picked up that it would seem to have, because Dennis Hopper was in Blue Velvet, and I thought there's some of the kinkiness here. I thought it was a real pale imitation of Lynch's kind of pictures, and the Virginia Madsen character is, you know, she's an obvious shrew, I mean, an obvious tease. Nothing special there.
Well, there is something special there, and I don't want to give away the ending of the movie, but stop to think what happens between her and Don Johnson.
The last thing is a switch, but boy, there was nothing there.
And it's not a pale imitation of David Lynch, because what he's trying to do, I think, is not give you all of the self-referential jokes and all of the put-ons and everything, but to really try to make this sort of steamy film noir work.
I felt no steam.
Okay, one of the most tempting fantasies in the history of literature involves a man being shown how his life might have turned out if things had only happened a little differently. The story of Scrooge in A Christmas Carol uses that formula, and so does James Stewart's Lesson from a Guardian Angel in It's a Wonderful Life. And now a movie named Mr. Destiny uses the formula again, with Michael Caine playing a supernatural being who steps in when James Belushi grows discontented with his life. Belushi believes things would have turned out better for him if he'd hit a crucial ball in the state baseball championship years ago. Caine shows him what might have happened then.
Instead of missing the baseball, however, you hit it. Then you became a hero, married the prom queen, and so on and so forth, until you find yourself exactly where you are. So you see, hitting that baseball has spun your life off in an entirely new direction.
Belushi finds out in this alternate timeline that he's married to the boss's sexy daughter, and he's running the company instead of only working for it. The problem is, he still remembers his previous life, and in it, he was married to Linda Hamilton. He has trouble convincing her of that fact.
Ask me something I couldn't possibly know. But if I get it right, will you believe that we were married in another life?
Maybe.
Mr. Destiny is a sweet and gentle movie with a good performance by James Belushi. He's a master at seeming sincere, even in corny situations. But for some reason, this movie had a really low energy level. It was so muted and low-key and soft-spoken that eventually it just plain seemed slow, especially since it doesn't do anything different with the formula. It just shows us one more guy finding out he doesn't know how good he already has it. And I talked about how slow it is. I know you're talking to Quincy Jones later in the program about movie music, and you think there's too much in most movies.
Yes.
This movie had noticeably little movie music to the point where it almost seemed too quiet. What did you think?
I didn't notice how little it had, but I did like the picture more than you did, too. And I think it was just the way you described it. I'm surprised you're voting thumbs down, which was that it was gentle and sweet. And I thought that Belushi, and I think this is about as good as he's ever done in film, playing the average Joe. I mean, that seems to be his lot, and he does it extremely well here. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, boy, It's a Wonderful Life all over again. They're ripping it off. And then I thought to myself, you know what? Lean back and enjoy it. Why should there only be one, or Christmas Carol, 2 pictures with this theme? There's more of it in literature, and I bought it. And it was good-humored, you know, gentle, clean cut, not great, good.
Okay, so I liked all of those things about it, and I liked Belushi too, but it just seemed to me like the whole thing needed a jolt of energy. It needed to pick up the pace a little bit. It just sat there and meandered along.
I sat there grinning most of the time.
Coming up later in the show, Welcome Home, Roxy Carmichael, the story of a misunderstood teenage girl. And coming up next, Memphis Belle, a drama about World War II bomber pilots.
I got him! I got him! Right there! I've never seen it this big before.
Matthew Modine as the head of the crew of the Memphis Belle, an American bomber plane about to undertake its last mission during World War II. And there is some undeniable drama in this story, Memphis Belle, but it has little to do, I think, with the specific story being told here. Rather, it is simply the sight of those majestic B-17 bomber planes that really look great, and the simple fact that the men who flew them, with their plainly visible gun turrets right out the glass there, truly were courageous. Unfortunately, in this story, the air crew is a pretty bland group.
Boy, it'd be great if everybody came back today, with the dance and everything.
I'll give them 4 to 1.
Time is short for the crew of the Memphis Belle. They have only one more bombing run to fly before being sent home. Unfortunately, that mission is a difficult one over Germany.
We need cities up there. Why don't they do something?
Bail out, you guys.
Come on, wake up! Get out!
There's a hole in the pilot's window.
I'm jammed. I'm stuck again. I'm stuck again.
The flying sequences are most compelling when we are taken into the world of the gunners, as in this scene when the ball turret gunner gets stuck.
Let's go!
I just noticed one thing that I really didn't like about that scene. It's so very tight in close-up that it almost plays like a TV show. One that I think if the director had used a long shot, we might have really felt more for the drama that's there. Memphis Belle gets a mixed review from me. I like the planes more than the servicemen, but significantly, the most emotion that I felt during the entire picture came as the movie ended with an on-screen message that the film was dedicated to the courage and to the memories of the thousands of brave flyers from whatever nationality who fought and lost their lives during World War II. The hard call I must make, however, is that I believe I would have had the same emotion having seen those words on the screen, even without having seen this movie.
Well, when I saw the dedication, I just groaned because that's just a cheap shot, it seems to me, in order to... And when you dedicate it to both sides, does that mean that both sides were right? I mean, maybe these guys weren't fighting for the right side. I don't know what that dedication meant. I also don't know what you mean by the fact that you wanted a long shot. That's a very small plane, Gene. Where would you put the camera? Outside and shooting through the window? That's as close as they could get in those... as far away as they could get in those cramped quarters.
Well, one, they could have shot it from outside with him being dragged in. I mean, well, they could have. I mean, there are shots external to the plane.
I think the decision of keeping the camera in the plane is just like keeping the camera in the sub on Das Boot. It increases the claustrophobia of those small planes. I give the movie a thumbs up, and I give it a thumbs up for one reason only. It's because it works on a visceral level in terms of whether or not these guys are going to get over there, get the job done, and get back. And it works only on that level. There are so many different characters that hardly any of them really came through for me as individual human beings. But I was concerned about the mission as they fly basically through an anthology of aviation movie cliches.
Okay, so you cliches and then a crew. Wait, well, no, but there's a cast there. The only thing that I noticed, the long shots of the plane looked beautiful. Coming up next, a legend returns to her hometown, and a rebellious teenage girl is convinced she's the famous woman's daughter. Winona Ryder stars in Welcome Home, Roxy Carmichael.
God, you scared me.
Scared from boots to ballet slippers, and that my idea of a family vacation was to go and work on the Alaska pipelines for the summer.
And?
She cried for 3 days,
That's Winona Ryder as a teenage girl who doesn't seem to fit in anywhere in a new movie named Welcome Home, Roxy Carmichael, and that was Lila Robbins playing the high school guidance counselor who understands her even if nobody else does. Ryder dresses all in black. She leads a secret life. She's unpopular. She has food thrown at her in the high school cafeteria, but she doesn't care so much because she has a secret. She thinks she's the daughter of Roxy Carmichael, a girl who left town 15 years ago to become famous for what the movie never says, and is now coming back for a big visit. Ryder shares that and other secrets with Thomas Wilson Brown, who plays the boy who would be her boyfriend if she weren't always driving him away.
God, I want to kiss you so bad right now, Dinky.
It's good to want things.
You have to give the movie credit for moments of sincerity like that, but it also commits big moments of awkwardly contrived comedy, as in a scene where businessman Jeff Daniels is attacked by a saleswoman's jealous boyfriend.
It is extra for the hurry.
Right. Here.
Extra.
Here. Okay? All right. Go.
There is one excellent thing in Welcome Home, Roxy Carmichael, and that is Winona Ryder's performance. She creates a convincing three-dimensional teenage girl that I felt a lot of sympathy for, but then the movie surrounds that character with gimmicks and unfunny gags like that one and cornball plot twists until it seemed like every time she got a moment of truth going, the screenplay came along and simply smacked her.
Roger, I had the exact same reaction to the picture. There's a final kiss between her and their boyfriend that is so beautifully done. I think, why couldn't the movie just have been about the two of them or about her character? Why do they have to throw on this totally contrived script around her? The Jeff Daniels character is absurd. It's a film that just splits right in two.
And you know, the whole business of Roxy Carmichael and those little shots of her getting ready to make the trip, everything about that is contrived and everything about it is a cheat.
Not needed. Okay. They have a good character and they support her with nothing. Coming up next, we'll talk with composer Quincy Jones about the often ignored subject of movie music. Is there too much of it in most movies? Dominate most critical discussion, with the soundtrack getting the short end of the stick. Movie music, for example, is typically ignored unless there's a hit song in the movie, like the film Ghost, with its song by Alex North, Unchained Melody. More original movie music has come from Quincy Jones, the seven-time Oscar nominee, who has composed the scores for more than 35 feature films, including The Pawnbroker, In Cold Blood, and more recently, The Color Purple. While he was in his hometown of Chicago recently, I asked him to describe the way a composer is first brought into a film project.
And the normal system is, let's make a film and then call in the right guy to fill up all the holes. And at this time, you have to realize that the picture is naked, totally naked, with no sound effects, because they don't do all that until the finished dubbing. There's just dialogue and picture. And nothing has any bottom to, like the whip that Harrison Ford had in Raiders of the Lost Ark. All of that drama is not there. Then you sit down, and the biggest decision is, where does music start and where does it stop? And then the next question is, what kind of music? Because at that point, there is no music. That's where the interpretation comes in, because you have to deal with the mathematics and the synchronization first before you can deal with the emotion.
One of Jones's most emotional achievements came in The Color Purple, for which he received 2 Oscar nominations. He said he particularly likes the scene where sharecropper Danny Glover here pushes his wife's sister out of his home, tearing apart the lifelong friendship between the 2 women. What is the musical choice there?
The musical choice there is to deal with the pain of, because of the lust alone and him being rejected, that he could tear 2 sisters apart. And it's a very painful thing. I know we all sat on the set that day. Alice Walker was there, Amy Irving was there, and everybody just cried like babies because it was just so real and so emotional.
A generation before that, in another racial drama, In the Heat of the Night, Quincy Jones created a blues-influenced score that captured the tension between blacks and whites. One of Jones's favorite musical moments occurs as redneck Sheriff Rod Steiger tracks a murder suspect.
I had mouth percussion and percussion working at the same time, and we had this big cue when he was running away, and you see the futility of he's lost, and boiled it down just to percussion, and I always go by whether I got goosebumps or not, and that was the scene where I felt I got goosebumps.
When I see most movies, I think there's too much music in them.
I agree, and they pile it on like by the pound.
But Jones also said that the movie Star Wars and the advances in sound technology it triggered in the 1970s have demonstrated how to use music well.
All of those things just knocked the audience out because they weren't even aware that it was not only the visual experience, but it was a sound experience.
My big problem is love scenes or scenes of tension between two people in a room, and all of a sudden here comes the orchestra, and I'm saying, where is it? Who turned on the radio? And in real life, when it's really tense, it's deathly quiet.
Okay, well, the answer to that was, I forget the director, the Old Man in the Sea, and they asked Bernie Herrmann, well, somebody asked Bernie Herrmann, well, where the hell are the violins out in the ocean? He said, where are the cameras?
That's a cute joke, but I really don't think it holds up under scrutiny. I really do want to make the point that most movies have far too much music and are not done as artfully as the work of Quincy Jones.
You know, home video is a good way to go if you want to listen to the music underneath some of these movies. There's a new Laserdisc out of Taxi Driver where they do something that's never done before. Using a Laserdisc, you can select various versions of a soundtrack, and they have one soundtrack on this Laserdisc that only includes Bernard Herrmann's score. No sound effects, no dialogue, just music and pictures. So that's like an illustrated original soundtrack recording. It's the first time I've ever seen that done, and it's a good way to really get at the music and be able to listen to it.
Okay. William Friedkin directed The Exorcist and The French Connection, but he made another movie that he says he likes even better, and that film is almost completely unknown. It's our video pick for this week, coming up next.
William Friedkin's Sorcerer, made in 1977 by the director of The Exorcist. This is almost a lost movie, thrown away in its theatrical release. It wasn't even on video until now, but Friedkin calls it his personal favorite among all of his films. It stars Roy Scheider as a truck driver who has to negotiate his deadly load of nitroglycerin through the rainforest and across hazardous bridges in South America. The movie has sensational special effects, great acting by Scheider, and tremendous tension. It's a sleeper, finally out on video, and I recommend it. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this show. We had a split decision on The Hot Spot, Dennis Hopper's steamy melodrama. Gene disliked Don Johnson's work. I enjoyed Virginia Madsen and Jennifer Connelly. Another split decision on Mr. Destiny with James Belushi experiencing an alternate lifeline. Gene thought it was warm and effective. I thought it was simply too slow-moving. Another split decision on Memphis Belle, the World War II air warfare movie. It's full of cliches, but it entertained me anyway. Gene only liked the planes. Finally, 2 thumbs down for Welcome Home, Roxy Carmichael, which has a wonderful performance by Winona Ryder in a hopeless plot. And so for me, the pick this week would be The Hot Spot.
Gee, I really don't like that picture. The one that I would recommend, marginally, is Mr. Destiny.
Okay, that's it for this week. Next time we'll be back with reviews of White Palace, a sexual drama starring Susan Sarandon and James Spader.
Maybe you should take your hand off my thigh.
My hand's not on your thigh.
And also Quigley Down Under with Tom Selleck as a sharpshooter in Australia. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.